Good evening. My name is Keith Romano. I'd like to call this meeting to order. This is the Inland Wetland Commission meeting for the town of Monroe. It is April 10th, and the time is 7:12 p.m. Will everyone please stand to recite the Pledge of Allegiance?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'll take a roll call of members of the commission and staff present during tonight's hybrid meeting. Please answer here present, starting with myself, Keith Romano, Chairman. Here, Eric Lindstrom, Vice Chairman.
Here.
Brian Kelly, Secretary.
Here.
Rick Smith.
Here.
Jim Stewart, who's a licensed engineer and surveyor in the state of Connecticut.
Here.
Benjamin Sabia.
Here.
Paul Fernandez is not present. Kathleen Gallagher, Planning and Zoning Administrator.
Here.
Thomas Noonan, Zoning Enforcement Officer.
Here.
Sarah Stroud, Recording Secretary.
Here.
Before we start, I'll read our mission statement and how the meeting will proceed. Inland Wetlands Mission Statement. The objective and purpose of the Inland Wetlands Commission is to provide for the overall protection and preservation of the inland wetlands and water courses within the town of Monroe. Meeting procedure. Please note that this meeting is being conducted utilizing electronic equipment in compliance with State Act, Public Act 21-1. As such, this meeting is being recorded and will be available to the public in compliance with state law. If you are attending remotely, please remember to mute your microphone unless speaking. Anyone participating remotely shall state their name and title, if applicable, at the outset of each occasion that such person is speaking. All votes taken during which any member of the body are participating remotely shall be taken by roll call unless the vote is unanimous. The chat feature will not be utilized nor considered during this meeting. In the normal course of our meetings, we will hear public hearings and other applications. The protocol for public hearings is to have an applicant make a presentation to the commission, after which the commission will be asking the applicant questions. I ask that applicants keep their presentations as concise as possible. The commission will then review town staff and other independent comments. The meeting will then be open for public comment. I'll ask that all comments be made to the chair or commission. After any and all comments in opposition, or of a general nature are made, the applicant will be given an opportunity to respond. Please keep comments or questions direct, or a time limit of 3 minutes may be imposed. It's not necessary that the applicant respond, but generally in the best interest to do so. There will be no further opportunity for new questions unless new material is entered in as evidence or testimony during their response. Please keep all comments pro and con specific to inland wetlands related matters. Other applications that do not involve a public hearing will follow a similar format, with the exception that there will be no public comments allowed. The meeting follows a general published agenda unless otherwise amended. Are there any changes to the agenda?
There are 2 items to be removed, but nothing to be added. The first of which is the vote for Thomas Noonan to be an authorized agent of the Inland Wetland Commission. We just asked to revisit that at the next meeting. And there's a note under upcoming public hearings for Judd Road, which is actually on for public hearing tonight. So both those items will be adjusted. The copy you have in front of you right now.
What was the second thing you said?
On page 2, upcoming meetings at the very bottom, upcoming public hearings that talked about Judd Road. That's actually on for tonight. That was just an error. So the version you have in front of you have both those items crossed out.
All right. Okay, so general public participation. Is anybody in the public here tonight in chambers or online that would like to address this commission on a wetlands related matter here in town that is not soon to be in front of us or also not in front of us as an application right now. Anybody in the chambers? Anybody in online? All right, thank you. Okay, so now we're to application acceptance, regular meeting hearing determination, IWC 2024-03, file 1475, 77 Osborne Lane, proposed application for installation of a standalone garage along with grading and stormwater improvements in the upland review area.
We apologize as we're still learning your procedure. Do you want the applicant to present at this time or do you make the determination first and then
We're
they?
gonna get this delivered, so we're not seeing this till tonight?
I understand this was delivered to you, but I can ask staff about that.
You get it delivered?
I didn't get it. I never.
This is from a month ago.
Okay.
This is from like, they submitted this over a month ago, so it would have been in a packet from not 2 weeks ago, but the 4 weeks ago meeting.
Let's get you seeing it. And we're all opening up for the first time now. Is that my assumption?
Maybe I'm looking here.
Yes.
So they get it.
Yeah. Well, I want everybody to look over, it. Just take 5 minutes, a couple minutes as if we got before they showed up. So you,
Was online. Yeah. Yeah, I agree. This is this.
thing, I'm responsible.
It's pretty straightforward. Mine just came out over by the applicant.
And the reason it was submitted to you is because they are proposing within 25 feet of a wetland. So although it is a residential property, my understanding is that even though it's in previously disturbed area, the commission likes to see anything that's closer than 25 feet.
I have a question. Can we get clarification on Stephen Danzer's report? The blue is a stream, and he didn't mention it in his report.
One moment, let us pull up exactly what you're. No, he's looking at the, well. That's what I was going to say.
That's about it.
So if you want to answer Ryan's question.
Well, there is the water course, which is outlined in blue, but then there is also the wetlands that is marked in the white dotted line that goes around the stream.
I think that he's referring to under site description and discussion. He says, roughly 1.125 acres, within the Means Brook sub-regional watershed as per the deep map. Wetland resources within the site include a forested swamp and sloped wetlands flanking several connected watercourse channels, some of them intermittent. So that may be an intermittent stream. I just don't really.
Look at the site plan, at the drainage easement from, I guess I assume it's the town. 20-foot drainage easement, which comes up to a little bit farther back, about where that brook ends, it must enter a pipe. This is what I'm seeing here. So, was this? This wasn't looked at by engineering yet?
Yes, it was looked at by engineering. The engineering comments should be in there, and James is on tonight as well.
James?
Yeah, I believe that pipe actually discharges. Is actually the direction it
The other
goes.
way around. It's the other way around.
Correct, yeah.
So Public Works doesn't have an issue with anything?
Nope, they're outside of the drainage easement. And they addressed my engineering based comments for the stormwater.
I don't think we need a public hearing on this. And
I don't think
I'd
so.
like to make a motion that we move to a regular, meeting or
I got a motion from Commissioner Stewart for regular meeting at the. We'll talk about the date after, right? We'll talk about the date of the meeting after we get the motion, right, Kathleen? Not gonna talk about the date now.
Yeah, get the motion first,
Yeah, okay.
and then we can set it.
Second from Commissioner Lindstrom. And then, everybody in favor? Motion passed unanimously. I didn't see, you and I? Everybody's on. All right, you guys are all set for the next meeting. I mean, I don't know when it's gonna be, if it's gonna be in 2 weeks or beginning of next month, but it's good.
Thank you very much.
We have the agenda started for a second meeting of the month.
Not yet, but we can start it. I mean, it would just be a continuation of things that are here. There's nothing new so far. being seen.
Everything is here. You know, like everything, we're up to date then.
Yes.
Agenda. So now we have. Regular meeting, none. Public hearings. WDC 2024-02 file 1474, Judd Road Bridge over Mill River Bridge. Old Road. Mill River, Bridge 04929. As determined by the commission. Get confused by it. I'm sorry, I skipped over. Let me start over. C, public hearings, IWC 2024-02, file 1474, Judd Road Bridge over Mill River, bridge number 04929, public hearing 4/10/24.
Evening. My name is Mike Fanning. I work for WMC Consulting Engineers. We're here on behalf of the town as the applicant. I'm a professional engineer licensed in Connecticut. So Judd Hill Road is on the border between Easton and Monroe, the center of the river. Mill River is the municipal border. I gave them a copy today of the approval from Easton. So that end of the bridge has already been approved. So 3/4 of the properties here are Aquarian. The only other property owner that abuts the work area is the state of Connecticut. So there are no private residents. It's a private property that abuts this brook. The river flows south. At this location, it's in a FEMA A zone, in a Plotston flood zone, with no water surface elevation, no flow rates, or any accurate boundary. It's an estimation. So there's no floodway, but I'm going to turn the page here. So this is the proposed bridge. This bridge is 75 years old. It's what's known as functionally obsolete. It doesn't mean it's dangerous. It just means that the guide rails, for example, are inadequate. There are no guide rails there, which is not acceptable over a water crossing. The deck of the bridge is also significantly decayed. It was judged to be in poor condition. And that was the motivation for changing the structure. So the yellow is the limit of the proposed construction. The green area is the grading off of the road. The orange is the deck of the bridge. The new bridge will be slightly wider than the existing bridge. On the travel way, the hydraulic opening where the river goes through will be 10 feet larger than the existing opening. Hydraulically, there were no issues here. There's not a very large drainage area above the bridge, and it passes the 100-year flood very easily. There's like 3 feet of clearance underneath the bridge for the 100-year flood. This is what the temporary condition will look like during construction. These are cofferdams that the contractor will place at the edge of the water. Right behind them is the existing abutments. And then about 5 feet behind the existing abutments is where the new abutments will be constructed. But there's an elevation, so we'll leave more than enough space for the river to run while the bridge is under construction. These are the impacts. The light blue is waterway impact. Orange is wetland impact. The total impacts are about 670 square feet, about roughly 0.02 acres of total wetland with water course. This is the floodplain impacts. Everything but this little corner over in Easton is within the floodplain. So the entire project effectively is within this A zone of flood. The work will require 15 cubic yards of excavation and 6 yards, I believe, of fill. Because the abutments are coming back, the waterways getting larger, and so there's less fill than there is excavation. Also, the entirety of the project is within the upland area. Anything not in the wetland or the waterway is within the upland buffer. So the entire project is within the regulated area. Okay. Just one other kind of interesting thing. The fisheries had a request to do something more enhanced than normal. So instead of doing just plain riprap, we're going to use what's called live stakes. Stakes will be planted willow and similar things will be planted among the riprap on the bank. So it'll be vegetated on after construction is completed. Which is something we haven't had to do in the past, but they asked for it. Now, this is in an area regulated by Aquarian, so we've sent plans to Aquarian for this, and it's for their review. And the plan is for this to be constructed next year. It would start about this time next year, and the road will be closed for probably the entire construction season, hopefully done somewhere about November or so. So.
That's November 2025. Is that, but I have that.
Yeah, somewhere around there, optimistically. Can't guarantee that. And one other thing I'd say is, because of the minimal impact here, we anticipate doing the lower level permit, what's known as an SC, just a notification, no detailed review.
Anything else? You want to raise questions?
But it's
So just to clarify, the northern section, which is parallel, George Judd Road, parallel to the road in Monroe. I don't see any, is that where you're gonna do the stabilized construction of the bank? How are you gonna deal with, are you concerned, my concern is, or do you have any concern with that northern side and the proximity of the river, the Mill River going through there?
no, where it's only slightly filled greater than what it is now. And it'll be also protected. So it should be able, you know, if there was 100-year flood a week after they graded it, there would be a problem, but the contractor would be on the hook to come back and repair that. Otherwise, it'll be vegetated, and once the vegetation's established, it should be fine.
And that's where you're gonna do this willow planting, that you have on this? Is it done on the north side or?
Yes.
Mr. Smith, or Chairman Smith, I'd like to a point of clarification. That section that you're referring to, we are actually extending the head wall in that spot. So
Okay.
that's not necessarily, that one place is not going to need to be armored, because there was a concern about the water making that bend and coming back underneath the bridge.
Right.
So there's an existing head wall there now, and we're gonna put one back there as well.
Okay. I do see, you know, but I didn't see any of the permanent on this side of the river, so that's why I'm asking. Yeah, there you go.
The existing bridge has wing walls that come out. In this case, we have what we call U walls. The walls go straight back on the edge of the road. So it looks a little different. The riprap in particular will be over here because the water wants to continue on, you know, momentum.
Yeah. Okay, I'm good. I wanted to clarify that. I'm good.
I don't think I have any questions at this moment.
Yeah, so your abutments, are you going down to bedrock?
The abutments will be founded on micropiles.
Microplans. So how deep do they go?
They go to bedrock.
Okay, so are you concerned with the groundwater when they're
No.
installing this?
No,
No, because they're not gonna, you're not digging down below groundwater, so you're not expecting any dewatering.
well, in the temporary condition, when they have the cofferdam, so they'll have to dewater inside there.
Okay,
And then we put the temporary pump base and they pump into the basin and treat the water before it's discharged.
okay, so you're building a temporary pond sort of thing? Are you gonna pump into a bag or something? What's it?
It can be a bag. It's up to
So
the
the
contractor.
contractor is gonna propose it?
Yes, and it'll be reviewed and approved
Okay.
or not approved, that's the case.
So there's a work, because it doesn't look like there's a lot of area to put something like that, or he's gonna have the road, I guess.
Well, the whole road's gonna be closed. You're gonna have,
We talked about the riprap, do you know, is the contractor also gonna specify the cofferdam he's proposing?
yeah, you'll have to propose that. We give him elevation for a goal and a location, but he can propose to do sheet piling, for example, or he can do the big.
Big
sand
bags,
bags,
okay.
Silt sacks.
Okay, that's it, thank you.
I'm good. Good.
Good, good.
Okay.
Yeah, well done. Is there anything else you read into the record?
Exhibits need to be written into the record. Exhibit 1, received date of 2/29/24, description, application, and plan set submitted by the town of Monroe.
Like close the hearing?
Public hearing? Public comment?
Oh, sorry. All right, anybody, in the, chambers tonight like to speak in, opposition, of this application, please come forward and state your name. Address, anybody who's here in favor of this application, please come forward and state your name. Anybody in chambers here have a question about this application in general nature? Please come forward and state your name. Anybody online that would like to speak in opposition to this application, unmute yourself and state your name. Anybody, online that's here to speak in favor of this application, please. Favor of this application. Please unmute yourself and state your name. Anybody online want to speak about this application in a general nature? Please unmute yourself and state your name. All right, it looks like there's nobody, so, so you'd like to close the public here, public hearing, or do you decide that? You first. You're done, are you done with your testimony, sir?
Yes.
All right, you want to,
I motion to close the public hearing and move to deliberation.
a motion from, Commissioner Kelly to close the hearing and move it to deliberations. For a second,
Yes, I'll second.
second from, Commissioner Garcia, my left, to close the public hearing and move it to deliberations. All in favor? All right. All right, motion passes unanimously. Thank you. All right.
Deliberation for us.
Deliberation session, deliberations on completed hearings, complete items from the agenda. as determined by the commission, IWC 2024-01, file number 1472-205 Spring Hill Road. Proposal to construct 31,200 square foot industrial office building, including associated parking, drainage improvements, and expansion of wetlands within the 100-foot upland review area. GPS 205 Spring Hill Road LLC owner applicant, Foley Engineering LLC representative. We had a draft resolution, right?
Yes, the commission closed the public hearing at the meeting in March. The commission was sent an email of the draft resolution, and a copy of it is printed for you tonight for your review. The conditions of the approval include posting of a bond in the amount of $18,126.60. That was partially calculated at the last meeting by this commission. The plan shall be revised to create a berm along the northern property line. The plan shall be revised to demonstrate that the location of the existing gas meter and electric will not conflict with vehicles or trucks accessing the site or the building. It should be noted that 205 Spring Hill is in front of the Planning and Zoning Commission right now. They've already resubmitted a revised set of plans, and in those plans, they've already included the comments from the commission in that. So they are consciously working on the comments that were made at the last meeting.
Anybody had a chance to read through it?
Seemed like that's what we were.
I think everything will.
Do we have any? Does anybody have any changes they want to make?
We vote on this?
We vote on it, right? We vote on it, right? I'm gonna make a motion to accept the draft as draft, the notice as drafted.
I'll make a motion to approve the draft as drafted.
The motion to accept the draft as drafted by Mr. Lindstrom, do a second.
I'll second.
Second from Commissioner Kelly, all in favor?
Abstain.
Five,
Missed the last
Five.
public hearing.
5 in favor and 1 abstention.
Chairman? Chairman, just real quick, did you get any feedback on the alien signs on the roof next door?
No, I never got around to ask. I'll look on that someday.
Just wondering what that was.
It's probably him having fun in high school.
We are going to deliberate, Judd.
And we have, all right, added to the deliberation session is IWC 2024-02, file number 1474, Judd Road Bridge over Mill River, bridge number 04929, public hearing 410. 24 has been moved to deliberations. We are deliberating on that right now.
Motion that we approve the application with our standard conditions.
Motion to approve the application with our standard conditions. For a second, by Commissioner Stewart, do I have a second? Second. Second by Commissioner Lyncham, all in favor?
Aye.
Pass unanimously. Now we're at informal presentation.
You want me to give a review of what led us here, or would you like to talk?
You start.
So as the commission is obviously aware, 205 Monroe Turnpike was in front of this commission, including for a wall change. It was denied by this commission without prejudice. After that meeting, the applicant, their engineers met with staff and with Keith Romano to discuss potential mitigation measures that the applicant could do in order to prepare for a potential resubmission of the application. However, Chairman Romano is one person out of the entirety of the commission. Although it was a productive conversation, it was important for them to come in front of the commission to hear what the entire commission wants to do. Planning and zoning has a way to do this informally. We have a subcommittee meeting. Wetlands does not. So instead of having them submit an entirely new application, which could have fundamental issues that this commission is not even willing to entertain or has very large comments on it, the idea was given that they come in for an informal presentation in order to suggest and to talk about some of the potential mitigation measures in the project in order to hopefully either direct them or give them information that could help gauge how they would want to approach a resubmission.
A question before we start.
Yeah.
Are there protocols in place for this informal meeting? I mean, generally we hear applications, we don't hear informal discussions. So, you know, I'm not sure how we're supposed to.
We're a very free application friendly town. I mean, the idea is that instead of putting the burden on the applicant to do a full submission, they usually come to wetland staff, and we can usually gauge them in a correct direction. Usually we have an understanding of what the board normally will accept or normally won't accept. Because this is such a unique condition, instead of staff giving them direction on what we think the commission will be willing or not willing to accept, we thought it was more important for it to come in front of you. So in the same way that we come in front of you for, if you want to see an application and we have an informal discussion about, let's say, a residence that's coming in that wants to build something within 25 feet. Is that something the commission wants to do? And we have that informal conversation. This is kind of in that same idea. It's just a little more formal because we're involving more people as part of the discussion. But we do something similar with this when we talk about any other application that we, talk about if the board wants to see or not want to see. This is just in a little bit of a larger setting.
I'll give you my little review. So back in 2018, Commissioner Stewart and I are the only people that were on the commission at that time. We approved four, if you want to call it 4 lots of it, was a commercial division of the property into multiple, uses with shared driveways and all that. And there was a prediction of what the uses were going to be. And obviously after 6 years, those things were going to change. We had approved a wall in a location. And it basically became a condition of the site development. I don't know how much of it had to be built when you have you have 4 different shops there, and I know how much of it had to be built, probably all of it, because it was on a permit. You got to see how you have to build everything, right? Okay, so somewhere between 2018 and 2024, that wall got shifted 15 feet closer to the wetlands without any of us being aware of it. I wasn't even aware of it. I wasn't even aware of it until the morning of the last meeting that we had about this, where we denied the application. So, so the wall was not built where it was approved by us. Things have changed in the past 6 years as far as their business plans are concerned. But I'm not. So that's the details of what actually happened. I'm going to just state that I do not like having our plans disregarded and permit being given and then just something done, however makes them works out best for their future business plan without coming in front of us. So now we have, what's it, the apple in front of the horse in front, cart in front of the horse, whatever you want to say. That's the actual situation on the ground. The best I could, express it to you guys.
And also, when you say a permit was given, just for clarification, the other half of this is that they never actually received a building permit for the wall. So simultaneously, in addition to dealing with the fact that they don't have a wetlands permit, they also never got a building permit, and the previous wetland enforcement officer did not sign off on that building permit. They don't actually have a valid building permit for this wall. So they also don't have the proper inspections for the wall, which was a very big concern of Chairman Romano. And so they're currently working with the building department in order to confirm that the wall was built in compliance with structural engineering sound practices. There are ways to do that retroactively. They have to hire a third-party consultant, which they've had. It's been accepted by the building department. And then they have received about, I would say, half the information related to that, all of which at the moment looks acceptable to the building department and our building official, and they're still waiting on the second half of that information. So it was approved by this commission. They did not have a valid building permit. They did come and have some informal conversations with staff, but they didn't actually have a valid building permit signed off by the previous wetland enforcement officer before construction began.
For the new wall, not for
For this wall.
not for the previously.
Either wall. Any wall.
I thought they had a permit for the first plan that was submitted.
They have a zoning compliance certificate for, I believe, the first part of the plan, but there's a separate building permit for the wall that has to be pulled by the building, with the building department. Like specifically just for the wall. So independent of the buildings, they have to pull a separate building permit for the wall.
So the wall that was approved back in 2018
Correct.
needed, in addition to that general wetland permit, an additional permit,
A building permit.
a building permit that
The wetland enforcement officer would sign off on.
they did not obtain.
They applied for it. They never actually received the building permit. The wetland enforcement officer did not sign off on it.
You know why?
Unfortunately, it was passed out. So we don't have that knowledge.
Okay. We just know that there was no building permit.
Building permit.
Issue.
I will just, for the record, Kevin Soley engineer, I will note the applicant did submit building permit drawings, structural
Yes.
drawings for the retaining wall. And actually, a pre-construction meeting for that wall was held with representatives from the building department and land use and wetlands. So I think there
was informal discussions and we do agree with that.
Do you have a reason why it didn't go past the actual line and get the approval?
you mean in terms of where it was constructed?
Oh, why didn't you follow through and there was informal, okay, but why didn't?
I'm, so we're not the contractor, but again, they did file all the plans and they did have a pre-construction meeting in the field prior to its installation. So I think there was probably just a breakdown in communication between the building department and the contractor and staff that was here at the time, because I think the contractor was under the impression they were authorized to proceed with that wall. And then it was after the fact that it was determined that the building official said there wasn't a permit issue. So, I think obviously there's been some turnover in staff in the department, which we're obviously very excited that the new staff is here, who's been doing an excellent job. I'm very excited with the new staff in town because they are doing an excellent job of helping clean up some messes that were left from prior administrations. But again, so the applicant, the contractor met in the field with the building official and the wetlands agent and the zoning officer, and they all discussed the construction of a wall. And after that meeting, I wasn't at that, but there was an understanding that they were allowed to proceed.
Do we know when that meeting happened?
There was a commentary that the wall is 15 feet away from previous plans that had been in front of this commission. And then in that meeting, I imagine that the wall moved from where it had been previously.
Yes, that's correct. And that was reviewed with staff at the time. And the discussion at that time was, okay, we have an application that we're submitting to wetlands to establish this as a proposed location. And the developer proceeded at risk of the wall in that new location prior to us becoming before this commission. And I think, one of the challenges when we did initially submit, it took a while for us to get to a hearing just because of schedules with acceptance and meetings and things like that. So it was
it was, I think it was probably almost 2 months later after the meeting was held that we were finally before this commission to review the proposed location. So I think there was just,
So,
and part of the reason why the wall needed to be constructed was there were, like a lot of projects in town, when there's a project proposed and approved that has multiple uses, oftentimes it gets constructed in phases. So the Aldi component of that project, to which that wall was supporting the access drive and the parking, the developer had delivery obligations to Aldi so that they could finish the construction, put in all the utilities, do all the earthwork to give them a pad. And based on their contractual obligations with Aldi, they had to proceed so that they could meet a delivery time to them, so Aldi could hopefully be open for Thanksgiving this year. So that kind of precipitated and created the need to progress with the construction prior to the ability to get formal approval from this commission.
so you surveyed the location of the new wall?
We did.
Can you show me on the plan? Because I don't, this was discussed in the last, okay, that's why I don't know what the hell's going on.
Sure. So do you have the, oh, so I don't have the wall and it's, unfortunately, we didn't bring the plan that was previously approved, but we have the plan that we just submitted and which was denied, because we wanted to go over, as we discussed, we wanted to go over some changes we wanted to make to our next application, which hopefully addresses a lot of the concerns from the commission, but we wanted to also solicit more feedback. But basically, so this is what we applied for previously. And
What's the square footage of that
here
building?
we go. So this portion of the wall right here. So this wall was
Can you zoom in
constructed,
on that?
probably.
I'm sorry.
Might lose my laser point. Let's see if I can do both. Nope, I can't.
Everything else is the plan?
Yes, so the portion that's.
So just for clarification, so the original approval had a medical office in the rear.
Yeah.
They are coming in front of P and Z and for wetlands for a self-storage facility now in the rear. That is what is generating the wall change. So that is what they came in front of the commission is for an approval for the self-storage facility in the rear.
Correct.
Bigger, okay.
Bigger. So it's a bigger building than the medical office. They also though changed the reconfiguration. They'll go into this, but
Okay.
there was more parking lot in that area and some of that has been reduced. So the building got bigger, but the parking got smaller. But it generated some changes related to the wall. And that is really what the focus of the differentiation between the plans has been.
So this portion of the wall was constructed as approved. Yeah. And it was really from this point forward. Previously, that wall came a little bit further away. It was probably about here. So a little bit more separation from the wetland.
Yeah.
But then that wall continued, proceeded around and wrapped around a lower portion of parking or a easterly portion of parking. And it kind of terminated back up around here. So all of this area was previously approved to be disturbed and actually to be impervious surface. Yeah. So this represents what was previously submitted to this application, to this commission and ultimately denied without prejudice. Once we met with staff, and I'd say the wall was constructed probably to about here.
Right now.
Yes, and that was really needed to be able to construct the portion of the old lot that had to be delivered and to make the airport work so that it could be constructed.
What? I don't understand. What's there that they need?
Well, so this parking area through here.
Yeah.
The earthwork, because of the height of the wall, in order to make that fill work and be stable, they needed to build a portion of the wall so that they could backfill and have it stable until the balance of the wall would be constructed. So what was previously before you is reflected here, which kind of continued that wall. That's it. But this is, I'm sorry, this is. So this is what was previously reviewed by the commission. So we continued the wall to approximately here, and then we graded down. So it was reduction in impervious surface. But this would be the new wall location.
What's that other drawing?
So this is what we'd want to come back to the commission with. So rather than continuing that wall to be closer to the wetland, we want to pull back the portion that hasn't been installed yet.
How tall is that wall?
About 15 feet.
What's it made of?
It's a block retaining wall, gravity block.
Gravity block
wall. Yes.
I'm sorry if I'm dominating, but I guess you haven't explained to me, maybe I'm not understanding this. Why did that wall need to change from its location? What's there that had to be moved? What's proposed, what did they have to do that required that wall to move from its original location?
So as was discussed, this was previously approved for medical office. Markets have changed.
No, I have no problem with all that. Just
Right.
what specifically happened at the site that would make the wall have to move?
Okay, so the applicant, the developer received interest from the self-storage user. Okay? There was a previous self-storage user that the applicant was in discussion with. In order to accommodate that operator's requirements, and they wanted to have a larger building and to have access to a lower elevation here, which would have required that wall to be installed where it was installed and to continue around. Subsequent to that, we went to planning and zoning. We discussed the special development district to allow for the self-storage to be constructed. That was approved by the commission. But during that time, that operator went away. So then another self-storage operator was interested because we now had a planning and zoning approval for use. They did not require that additional activity down here, which allows us to further reduce the impervious surface and further pull the remaining wall further away from the wetlands. But in order to get,
So you did it for that driveway, is what you're saying?
well, and this is all, now we're doing it for emergency access. It was actually different previously because there was more proposed over here. There was access to a lower level. There was,
And what's that have to do with, but that's a new building, so what's that have to do with Aldi and what they had to do for Aldi?
well, because they had to construct enough of this wall to construct this access drive. And this is one of the delivery requirements for all
Okay, where's Aldi? Which one's Aldi?
here. So this is all the developer had to do all the earthwork to be able to deliver to them what they're required to do. And in order to accommodate that, they had to construct a portion of this wall to be able to do that earthwork.
And we didn't have any meetings?
If I could, I'll put my opinion on the record right now. I think, on a personal level as a resident, I am all about growth in the town. But I am struggling more with precedent in this situation than anything else. Like that wall changed and it happened without the necessary approvals. And I understand that because of some of the business opportunity or, what was happening from a business perspective in the background, the need to change the wall may have been valid from that perspective. But not saying that this is what this application is doing. But if we say, oh, it's okay, after that mistake was made, that's a precedent that I don't like as a resident. So that's my biggest concern. It's not about why the wall changed, because we may have been able to work through that. We may have been able to reconcile that. That's just to my peers up here. That's my biggest issue with this is the precedent aspect.
I do have one question, Mr. Solly. So the original proposed four-story self-storage building had a footprint of about 20,000 square feet.
I believe so. Sure.
And this proposed four-story has now a footprint of 25,000 square feet.
I don't believe the footprint changed substantially. It did not. The footprint was consistent between the former operator and the current operator.
I see two drawings, one's 20,000 square feet, one's 25,000. So to me, I'm wondering, that's what pushed the wall. Maybe I'm incorrect here, but
This was what was previously submitted. And this is what's currently submitted. You see the footprint doesn't change. The only difference is actually this has an indent in it for loading operations.
But there was a large increase from the medical office facility
Correct.
to the self-storage facility.
That's correct.
So if I understand correctly, the only thing that we've approved so far is the medical facility.
Yes.
That's correct.
Right. And at a smaller footprint with the wall in a very different location.
These both say proposed four-story self-storage building, so I guess you can, I guess that's true, but to me, the change in the wall is because it's 5,000 square feet more.
Yeah, because, right, the original medical office building
But it doesn't say medical office.
it didn't go as far down. And they, in order to maximize the footprint, they expanded it. And in order to get the emergency vehicle space, they had to move that wall. That's what we were discussing in our last meeting. That, you know, if they had come to us beforehand, we probably could have found some middle ground to make it work, but they opted to, you know, roll the dice and see if we'd approve it, and we didn't. And so here we are. And I'm with Ryan on this one. Like, it feels like we're in this situation where they're coming to us to ask for forgiveness rather than ask for permission, and that's a bad precedent because it means
And that,
the next guy is going to do the same thing and say, well, you know,
that's not to condemn this application. Like, I understand things may have led to this, that, you know, and maybe it was a miscommunication. All that could definitely be true, but it's the precedent. It's like, if we are allowing somebody to do something different than what was approved and then come back and ask to compromise that, then what's to stop anybody from going
Right.
about things that way in the future? And that's problematic. That's my concern.
right, I agree with that.
I think one important component to note, the previous approval included disturbance in the area that was disturbed. So what's before you now, while the physical location of the wall is closer to the wetland, the limit of disturbance is not different. So the previous approval had disturbance in the same location. This change has not resulted in any impact to the wetlands. It hasn't resulted into any more activity in the upland review area. All of that area was approved to be disturbed and to be manipulated as part of site development. And this doesn't change that. In fact, what's before this commission is a significant reduction in impervious surface within that area. And you know, more naturalized lawn landscaped area within the upland review area, which is a far improvement from what was previously approved associated with the medical office building. So I just wanted to make that important component. And the fact that there's been no direct wetland impact associated with this change, it's only activity in the upland review area, I think is an important component because, you know, I will say that I think the commission does have a long precedent of, you know, other people, other property owners, landowners, you know, proceeding with work in wetlands that aren't permitted, proceeding with direct wetland impact that isn't permitted, and then basically memorializing that through an approval process. Again, I'm not saying that the steps that this application took or this project took are a textbook example of how things should go. You know, obviously we're here. We want to find a way to rectify this. And I will say that we do have a letter from our soil scientist, Bill Kenny, who's been before this commission many times. He has reviewed the wall as constructed. He has provided an opinion letter that there was no direct wetland impact associated with this. And in fact, the removal of the portion of the wall that was constructed outside of where it was approved has the potential to cause more impact to the wetlands that are still there than allowing that portion to stay in place. So what
You want to expand on that? Because if you can build it without affecting the wetlands, how come you can't deconstruct it without affecting the wetlands?
Well, part of right now is there are issues trying to deconstruct it because it'll impact the ability for Aldi to proceed.
Have you got some correspondence to that effect
From Bill Kenny or?
from Aldi? Saying that, showing that you've made some conversations with them, asking them permission not to do this, you know, not to modify the agreement for a period of time until you get this approved? If anything showing.
Well, I mean, we could. I haven't had any conversations with Aldi directly, I'm sure.
No, I'm the owner, the developer,
I think.
showing that what they're saying is truthful. Or whether they just went ahead because that was the contract. And how long did they know this?
Well, I mean, they've known it since the pre-construction meetings held in the field, because they were trying to be able
When
to.
was that?
Earthwork, that was January.
It was like immediately after it started.
When did they know that the medical building wasn't coming and the self-storage was coming? And that the things were gonna have to change?
So for the record, Matt Baldino with Solar Engineering. So we did have that meeting. So there, prior to that meeting in the field to discuss the wall location, we couldn't come before this commission because we didn't have an approval for the use. So we couldn't present an application for a project that couldn't be approved by this commission. So there was, from a timing perspective, we first had to receive the zoning approval for the use. At that time, we understood that the next steps would be to come to this commission. We met with town staff outside as well as the town engineer to discuss the location of the wall as installed, and understanding that we would then be submitting an application to this commission. But there was an understanding both with town staff and town engineer that there was concern with constructing a wall that would potentially be moved in the future. And at that point in time, the discussion was to proceed with the wall as proposed for this commission, with an application coming before the commission shortly after.
I'm still struggling with this because it sounds like,
So we weren't trying to, we weren't trying to hide this from the commission. We talked to staff, we had acknowledged that we were coming before this commission.
Staff told you, go ahead, build the wall you want to build?
So the staff told us that we could proceed at risk with the understanding that.
Really?
that's what she said.
She did?
Yes. Yes.
They knew the risk, they knew
But they
the
knew the
risk.
risk.
Cheryl?
Yes.
Cheryl?
Yes.
She was the biggest rule follower of them all.
So I'm struggling with this. So we're now having this informal meeting to help give you guys some guidance on what we may or may not approve going forward. But why couldn't we have this informal meeting back in January before you submit all this? We could have had this discussion before. So
That's again where we brought this, and I think, having new staff is an opportunity for them to understand the expectations of this commission. We had brought it to staff, and it was at that point, staff the acting wetlands agent did not bring it before this commission to do that. Exactly. Exactly.
If they suggested that, we would have been there at the next available meeting. I mean, I think it took 60 days before our application was even opened.
So, okay,
So, and then just to clarify on all the construction, so right here is roughly where we're at, 15 feet in elevation on that retaining wall. In order to provide the parking spaces associated with the Aldi development, we need to construct this portion of the right side of this parking spot. The left side, the western side would be under the storage, eastern side would be under the Aldi parking lot. In order to support the access drive to this parking field, they needed to
Place 15 feet of fill there.
correct,
So
which
we had to
requires
extend some
tearing the
wall
wall down.
to make the grade work.
So just to be clear, so the dark section is yet to be constructed.
No, so
The dark section is where it deviates from the previous approval.
Right?
It is
it was
constructed to,
constructed to roughly here.
Okay, so right to the top corner of the wetland.
Right, so we had to, this portion of the wall
Okay,
had to be constructed in order to support the 15 feet of fill that was placed here.
okay.
well. I mean, there's other ways of doing it.
Yeah.
I mean, you could have built
You could have brought.
you could have built the wall, you could have built the wall towards the building there and it's a bill, and it would have cost a lot of money. I'm still struggling with staff telling me to do that, but that's.
James, were you in that discussion? Can you shed a little light on what that field discussion was at that time?
Yeah, so this meeting actually took place in the town hall, because I actually have not stepped foot on this site to discuss this wall. But the general consensus was, I did agree that it's less than optimal to construct a wall, pull it back down, because of the block, because it's a block wall, and the geogrid that's going to be behind it. So if they were to kind of slope away, they'd have to pull back the existing wall further when they would construct the balance of it. So there was some concern there. The indication, but again, I understood the logic of what they were doing. They were staying within the limit of disturbance. But the direction from staff was that any additional past there was at their own risk. Is basically what it was. Again, it's not recommended, it's not ideal to be constructing and deconstructing the wall. But it was just at their own risk.
So the new,
Because the application was coming.
okay, so the new building doesn't need that access drive around?
Well, the new building still wants to have the access drive around for emergency access.
Okay, so can you show me where the approved wall is again?
But just quick, and I apologize, just for clarification. So this came in front of planning and zoning for an SDD approval before they come back in for a special exception permit. That original plans had basically a walkout basement. So the first floor is at the parking lot. It changes an entire floor elevation down on the left-hand side to that. And then there was a door that came out from the basement. Because of the driveway that's required for them to make that, because I believe it was also used for maybe loading and some other things, that swing of that driveway came out much further than what you're seeing on there. Since then, the operator has changed and now there is no longer that walkout basement. There's no longer a door on that side. And so that grade change is now 8 feet, 10 feet, whatever, higher than that. And so they're providing emergency access, which is that dashed line, but they no longer need that big swing of the driveway because they're changing an entire floor elevation. And that's kind of where the actual design change is happening. So to your original question, based on this design, why does that wall need to be so far to the wetland? It's because that is not the original design that was originally put in front of
That little corner moved this south.
So the wall could be built the way it was originally approved.
If they had known that this was the design,
Understood,
yes, the wall
understood.
could have changed to what you're seeing.
So,
So what are you proposing?
okay, so, perfect. So this is what was before the commission that was, denied without.
Okay.
variance. So when we looked at this, we said, okay, what changes can we make? Based on what hasn't been built yet, to try to improve the situation from what was viewed negatively. Obviously, we want to try to maintain the portion of the wall that was constructed because there's a number of issues with trying to deconstruct the wall and the impacts it'll have on Aldi because they're now moving forward with their building construction and everything else. So this is where the wall was previously proposed and denied by this commission. We want to change the limits from what has yet to be built to wrap that further away from the wetland, further reduce any of that activity in the open review area. This is more costly than continuing the wall as we proposed. This results obviously in more wall height and length and square footage. So this is more expensive than what was previously submitted. But this is one that further separates the wall and the limits from the wetland and reduces the impact of the upper review area. Additionally, previously proposed, we had with that wall being proposed here, let me zoom in a little bit. The outlet for the stormwater detention was located here. This detention system has reduced significantly because we were able to reduce the amount of impervious surface from what was previously approved the medical office building. So this is where we had proposed to have our stormwater outlet, which again was within the previously approved limits of disturbance. And what we're proposing now is and actually, so this shows where the wall was previously proposed. This is where we're proposing to build the wall now. Regarding that stormwater detention system or outlet, we want to also pull that away. So previously it was proposed here. We want to rotate that, pull it here. So again, increases the separation from the limit of wetlands. That's another component that we want to incorporate into the revised submission for the commission to consider. Additionally, we want to plant substantially more of the upland than what we had previously proposed. This is the landscape plan from the last application, which the commission viewed negatively. And now this would be a landscape plan that we would come in with
which has significantly more plantings in that upland review area, to just further enhance that buffer that'll remain. And, you know, again, provide additional, you know, plantings in the proximity of the
Zoom in
wetland.
some more.
I think that's as much as I can zoom. But so we're adding all these plantings in the upland and adding additional plantings over here, and again, relocating that outlet, so it's located in this location here rather than right up against the wetland itself.
And that's all filled, all that crosshatch area, that's all,
This is fill and seeded with like a no-mow erosion control.
so you're proposing to fill and retaining wall all up against the wetlands.
So, well, this retaining wall again is pulled further away than previously approved. This would be slope, where previously we had a wall all along here. And that elevation was probably, that wall was probably 18 feet in height, because again, the grade of the parking was at the same finished floor as the Aldi and the medical office building. Now we're able to drop this a little bit and then further reduce this height to again, reduce a lot of the activity, a lot of the impervious surface within this upper review area that was previously approved.
So I still am stuck on the 20,000 versus 25, because this alternative site plan that I see has a wall much farther away from the wetlands, as opposed to being right next to it, which is to 25,000. So to me, if you went with the alternative, 20,000, you should have been back away from the wetlands.
Okay, so what you see before you is an alternative site plan, which is something to consider, and that's and as part of the application process, we have to submit something that could be potentially feasible and approved.
That's right.
Right? So that building isn't feasible because market conditions won't allow for a tenant to choose a building in that part. The market conditions is part of that feasible and prudent analysis.
Market conditions don't trump wetlands. You're right next to the wetlands. Right next to the wetlands. I just. Over here.
One of the issues you mentioned was and to get Aldi up and running, right, for a deadline. And they basically need some outside storage for like equipment and materials. Is that what you're talking about, where you need?
No, it's
When it's open and operating?
requirements, so they would start their building construction.
I'm sorry?
It's meeting the pad delivery requirements. So the developer has an obligation to deliver to them a graded pad, all the finished site work, everything before they would start their building construction. So part of those requirements were a fully graded site within the limits of their building area, their site.
We can't swap anything out temporarily to get that thing done and then go back and have the room to do what we need to do on the other one. It sounds.
Can you at least show me the limits of grading along the wetlands that you're proposing with this new plan? It's right along there.
I think it's right.
And where is that where is that area running off to? Where the grade lines are going away from the wetlands?
Sure, so this wetland, essentially there's a swale through here that connects to that swale system.
That swale runs to the wetlands?
Correct.
You're
Everything drains.
I could probably be convinced if that wall was extended and raised and got the grading away from that swale and you added planting and restored, provided some treatment or something. Also, you don't have, it's all your parking lot drainage is going underground.
Correct.
Could you figure out a way to provide some surface, bioswales?
Sure.
Something that would meet the 2024
Yep.
stormwater treatment guidelines?
Well, we certainly meet all those requirements now, but this is a great suggestion that that's why we're here. We want to hear something like this. So the commission would rather see more wall constructed here to reduce the grading down here and then introduce some above ground detention down here, essentially, kind of between these two wetland pockets. That's certainly something we could consider. And that's great feedback for us to take back with us.
I mean, it's my understanding, and I'm just learning, is that the underground treatment doesn't remove phosphorus and nitrogen or in metals. Well, you need above ground bioswales and plants to do that. So that wouldn't, that would help at least some way. And then more plantings, less fill near the wetlands and
No, anything to say?
I mean, I'm in agreement with, Commissioner Kelly. I'm not. It's not, yeah, we want to grow the town, but at the same time, just going and doing your own thing, but without coming to the commission and having the onsite, it bothers me.
yes, I wish we had the approved plan in front of us, because I'd love to see what,
Yeah. Times you're showing the wall
I'd like.
where it
yeah.
was in the application that was denied, and now you're showing this, but it would be good to see even an overlay, color overlay of where it had previously been approved.
Yeah, I mean, if you can make the new plan better than the old plan.
I mean, I think we work in a lot of communities, we do this a lot. There was no direct wetland impact associated with this. There was no activity outside of a previously approved limit of disturbance. This plan, regardless of the wall location, represents a significant improvement because it greatly reduces impervious surface. And now the revisions we're making here allows us to pull activity further away from the wetland and less impervious surface with a limited disturbance. I don't want to minimize or anything that was done here, because obviously there were things done out of sequence. And when we talked to staff, we probably should have been adamant to come before you as well, to give you the heads up that something was happening. But again, the limited disturbance that was approved were entirely within. We didn't go outside of an approved limit of disturbance. We didn't we didn't have any direct wetland impact. I just want to remind the commission of that and assert it, because again, commissions approve limits of disturbance. They say you can do activity within these areas. This didn't change that at all.
It did get a lot closer to the wetlands.
Yeah.
The wall did, yes, and I'm not trying to minimize
That's
that.
what
I'm not-
He wants to see where was it versus where is it? And that's, I think, a reasonable request.
I think Matt's trying to.
And,
put
and,
up
and you've been honest in saying that the staff told you were doing it at your own risk, so if the commission determines you gotta pull it out, that was the risk,
Right.
so. Take a break.
It's a 5-minute break,
Going to the
5-minute recess.
Want to call for a 5-minute recess?
Need a motion?
5-minute recess.
Maybe you can find the existing plan.
I am going, does the commission want me to mute this for the 5-minute recess or max?
Sure.
Bring up the map.
Sure, so I just wanted to pull up the plan that was previously approved by the Wetlands Commission. So this is what was initially approved from the Wetlands Commission. You can see how much further that wall and that parking extends into that upper review area from what we reviewed. And this,
Years is from, Kevin, I'm sorry, what year is it from?
I mean, this was originally probably approved in, I think, 2018, 2019. So not only did it have much more impervious surface than disturbance in that upper review area, This wall was approximately 15 feet tall. So what we've been able to do, while we have, basically this much wall slightly closer to the wetland, it's about here. All of this can be eliminated. All of this impervious surface, all of this 15-foot height wall, we're essentially to here, and we would propose to continue that this way. And per Commissioner Stewart's comment, we could even consider going even further and providing more potentially above ground detention.
Not for the full plan.
Now, the project obviously has evolved quite a bit from this initial approval. Noble was constructed and been operating. This portion was modified when Monroe went in. This was modified when Aldi went in. But this limited wall and parking lot has been reduced significantly with our current plan.
What's the square footage of the building in this plan?
This building,
Yes.
it was a 10,000 square foot medical office building.
Can you show us the planting plan?
Sure. So we had a 15-foot wall here. We also had another, I want to say, 6-foot wall in this location here. All of that has been pulled back significantly.
And that's the planting plan here.
That was the approved planting plan by this commission.
Because there's a lot more space between the wetlands area and that wall.
Right, so this was the wall in its approved location. Probably from here to here was constructed closer than what was approved. This segment of wall, roughly where my hand is. So this is the area that's really been changed from the previous approval.
That's a different plan than even the first one you opened up with just then.
Well, this was what was approved. The first plan I opened up was what we submitted to this commission that was denied.
Oh, what I meant was, we just started 3 pictures ago.
That wall,
It's not the same picture as this.
No, this is where it was approved, Commissioner Smith.
yeah, but what I'm saying is where your hand is now,
Yes,
that's where the wall is.
that's correct.
Yeah.
Yes, so from right here to here is what's been modified from what's been approved.
And where is the outfall proposed? Where's the new outfall coming out?
On this plan, the outfall was here.
Yeah,
On our new plan, we're proposing to put it here.
I'll just speak for myself. I'd love to see, I don't know what the timeline is. But I would personally entertain wrapping that wall around, raising it up so you can level the grade out. Down below and doing some sort of an above ground, treatment pond and more plantings down below. That would be my opinion.
Do we need to do a site visit?
I mean,
There's
We're not even in it.
there's an application yet, so we can't.
You don't have any photographs of this drone footage, all that stuff?
I don't leave with us. I think there was some provided.
That was part of last week, last week.
Pictures that they're looking at, have that retaining wall along the southern property line, but it also, it's not full. It starts to slope down towards Noble.
That's correct, yes, because we had to just put in what we needed to in order to make the slope above and the parking area above stable. And then we were able to step it down.
That building there, that's now the retail potential bank. That is currently, Aldi is the same exact footprint.
Roughly, I think the Aldi might be slightly larger, but that was obviously improved. See, this didn't change when we went from this configuration to the Aldi. This is.
What do we do here? Like what?
Let's see what we do.
I think that, and correct me if I'm wrong, I think the fundamental question that generated this is, as they had mentioned, to go through the formal application process is going to be 60 days before, they're really in front of you guys to have like a formal discussion. I think they're asking for guidance of, question number one is, are you willing to entertain keeping the wall as is? Because if you're not, they shouldn't be spending the time, they would, I'm sure, prefer not to spend the time to go through 60 days just to have it be a stop. That doesn't mean you saying yes to it tonight means that you can't deny it later. It's just giving them a little bit of guidance of, is it worth their effort to continue with a plan similar to what's being presented with you guys tonight, or as was previously, mentioned by several people, that you believe it's going to set a precedent that you don't want to entertain at all in any way, shape, or form, and they can make a decision that way on whether they proceed with an application or not.
You can't vote on anything.
You
but
can't vote on anything. And again, you're not approving or denying anything. It's just whatever you're willing to give to the applicant in order to help them make a decision on whether they should resubmit a full application with some sort of plan that looks like this.
They still have to come in with a full application.
Correct.
But they also still can construct with their permit book.
Correct.
Go back and modify what their, whatever I want to say that, but they can go back and put it where it was approved. So we can't stop them. And then they, is it the gamble worth their time?
That's their, yeah.
Time.
This is the difference.
So what's your schedule?
It's under construction.
What's your schedule for getting this decision?
We need feedback. If this.
No, I'm just saying, as far as an answer.
Well, the developer is represented to me that trying to dismantle that wall and put it back to where it was previously approved is going to create fundamental issues with this deal with Aldi and will potentially impact that from a big picture financial standpoint. Because trying to deconstruct that now means they can't pave and Aldi can't hit their delivery open. So there's other contractual things that are above my pay grade that create challenges with trying to deconstruct it and move it the 10th.
You should have thought of that.
June, July,
September, October. No, we didn't.
Yeah, over half a year. Over half a year since, before we get to, Thanksgiving. You're talking about opening on Thanksgiving for Aldi. We have over half a year between now and then. And you're saying you can't work it out.
Not to the contract.
Not our,
Like it's a relay.
not our issue.
Yeah.
I just,
I mean, again, we're talking about a very small area of the upland that was to be disturbed. We didn't have direct wetland impacts. The wetlands are still good. We have a letter from a soil scientist who's been out there, who was involved in this project since 2014. We're simply talking about this area, this length of area. And again, we understand the concern about precedent. We understand the concerns of the commission. We're trying to simply offer some things that we think would be an improvement from what was denied without prejudice to try to come up with a solution that hopefully fits within everybody's, financial burdens and everything else.
I would say that if the commission's okay and it works, you know, it's to come back with a concept sketch of what I discussed for the next meeting for a quick, you know, so that way you don't put a lot of time into it.
Maybe like another informal.
Yeah, faster, less time.
I mean, what was it, would the commission just, I guess, humor me and acknowledge that whatever's being proposed is considerably better than what was previously approved in terms of the reduction in impervious, the height of these walls?
I think it sounds like it could be, but I'll stand by what I said. That doesn't,
Right.
none of that changes. That's the problem. That's the core problem for me. It doesn't,
Right.
honestly, it sounds like it could be better for all, you know, outcomes with some of the modifications you're talking about. Would obviously see that to say that definitively. It sounds like it could be, but that doesn't fix the biggest problem that I'm trying to grapple with.
I'm with you on that one.
We have other land use departments that this could affect. We have town staff, we have our public perception. Those are all things that take a lot of consideration, you know, on this type of thing. We're representing the town. And it's hard, it's what we're all gonna struggle with. It's not like, you know.
We don't even know if this wall's structurally sound yet.
I have no question regarding the structural integrity of the wall. The wall was installed in accordance with all the manufacturer specifications, in accordance with the plans that were submitted to the building department. And the developers provided all those inspections and pictures and photographs of the building commission, or building official. I'm not, you know, I guess there may have been a request for some more information. I actually don't even know what that was. I just heard about it tonight. But I don't have any concerns about the structural integrity of the wall by any means.
They're confirming it. I had talked to our building official today. He said he doesn't have a final, yes, the wall in its entirety as currently constructed meets their conditions, but he said what he has seen does meet the standards. And then he's waiting on a little bit more information to confirm it. So it is in progress. And obviously the commission would most likely not move forward with any sort of decision until we can have the building official write a letter stating that everything is in compliance with his standards.
The last part they did is the closest part to the wetlands. We hashed out, we mentioned everything we want to mention.
I mean, my thought is if it can be better for the wetlands, then I'm willing to look at it. I'm not looking to save the guy money. You know, so, you know, I'm not gonna limit what I expect. So I would expect that, you know, it would be, you know, a really nice place.
Can I ask, I think maybe some of this was discussed earlier, but through the conversation, it's not clicking for me. If the feedback that we are giving right now is received and the impression is you need to go back to the original application, the wall needs to be deconstructed, right? If that is the direction that everything goes, can that wall be constructed the way it was originally approved? Or is it fundamentally, is it logistically impossible for that outcome?
I don't know that answer.
I think we should know that answer.
I think that's important.
Yeah.
Not to say that it's going to sway the thing that I'm already expressing to you guys in terms of my thoughts on this, but for the timeline for all of you, I'm probably overstepping a little bit, but if the concept is that you're going to try to come in with an application to move forward with the wall as it's been built outside of the boundaries of what was originally approved, and you don't have a consensus from this group, you don't have a majority vote for that from this group, that seems like that would be like the dagger in terms of timelines and process. And I would just say to think about that, because I don't know that I feel great about even with a better proposal. I don't honestly. I'm not voting right now, but I'm trying to share my candid feedback on it. So
No, that's what we want to hear. I mean, listen, if this is the,
Yeah, I mean,
we're here for feedback.
I agree. It doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense to drag it out 3 months and then say, sorry, no, we don't like it. Now you gotta redo it. And now you only got 3 months to do it.
And maybe you
to
could
get
have
it done.
redone it. Maybe you could have redone it in the time that you had, but I don't. Those are things I don't know.
We having a meeting in 2 weeks?
That's the,
You closed the public hearing for Judd Road for the bridge.
We don't need one.
We don't need one.
You don't technically need one.
God.
Again, this is just open review area. This
Guys,
is activity within a little bit of.
give me your opinion here,
He knows my opinion.
which is,
I'm with him. I'm not a fan of doing it one way after you apply
okay,
for a different one.
okay?
I've been struggling with this from the beginning.
That's why we denied it.
No, I see it. I see it.
It's like,
And that's where I am, is that our chair struggled with it, and I'm still struggling with it. I respect the chair.
I'm not the decision maker, but
No, I get it, but I'm just saying,
I do too, but I struggle and being staff in the town I work, I want to support the staff in the decision, so I don't want to undermine them. But being that they said, do it at your own risk, I mean, yes, yeah, that means that they're doing it at their own risk. But it does kind of take a little bit of a weight off. They didn't do it,
They didn't say
we just put it there because we wanted it there. You know what I mean? They did make an effort to do it. So I'm a little bit,
I do.
I
appreciate that
understand a
perspective.
little bit. I see that it's, if we can get a better situation and it's not gonna save any money, then they'll learn their lesson. I think that's, I don't see it, there's a benefit to forcing him to tear it down and put it back if we're not getting a better product, You order the VW Beetle and they destroy it, and that they say, here's a BMW instead. You say, screw you, I'm holding your feet to the fire. I want my Beetle.
Yeah.
Not that that's the same thing, but I'm just saying that.
No.
That's my.
This is not a BMW.
If I can get a really nice plan with above ground detention not above ground, but above ground treatment, we got enough detention. Then I'm willing to look at it. If you guys aren't, we might as well tell them that right now and be done with it.
And again, we do believe that the changes that we've made are better than what was previously approved. And I think, considering what we reviewed, I would hope the commission agrees. I mean, this is a lot more disturbance in the upland. This is a lot more impervious surface in the upland. What we're proposing is a significant improvement related to what was previously constructed. Yes, approximately 70 feet of wall is slightly closer to the limit of wetland, but it's within an improved limit of disturbance.
Well, it's in a limit of that you were gonna be planting.
Well, there's grading activities. I'll show you the grading plan.
Grading was in that area as well?
Yeah.
it's not all matching up.
There was utilities, there was other stormwater detention, there was activity. We understand precedent, we understand principle, we understand all that.
And again, I honestly, again, maybe some of the things being discussed as potential solutions do make it a PMW instead of a Beal. Like, I get that potentially, but I don't know that just based on this conversation. And so if what you're looking for is feedback on where I stand on it, well, I have to think about my, you know, it doesn't feel right. It doesn't feel right, and the precedent is a concern. And so those are things that I'm confident in saying out loud and on the record tonight. And the rest of it is, well, maybe, but it's an uphill battle. So if you're looking for my feedback right now, then my feedback is, I don't see how that's my issue. Right?
One other thing I just want to mention, right before we took the little break, it was starting to sound like when you were explaining the conditions of what this has to do for meet this timeline and this and that. And it's sounding like, and I know there's hundreds of different examples. It's sounding like almost you oversold this property. Like the promises were, you got some pretty stringent promises that you didn't even have, meaning like you restricted yourselves in a way by putting this deal in place, not having this deal dealt with because it was going to impact each other. If you know what I mean? Like there wasn't enough buffer here to get all this stuff to come and work in a time, where you need it to be timeline. I don't know if that anybody agrees with, or if that makes sense to anybody. But if you have like this whole thing, if you're as far as you are and you don't have a secured plan that you need to fulfill this contract, it hasn't been done yet. Maybe you say push the timeline too tight. Like, and now it's like, it becomes like a burden, on us. So to push along something that we're struggling, that's a little bit of how I think about it. I don't know if you agree or not, but if there was, like I said, if that thing was already all approved, which it's not, you wouldn't have an issue. You'd be doing whatever you want to do to get it done. All be in your court. But you're talking about having a supermarket you're trying to get done by November, and you still don't have permits 6 months for the other building that has to have part of its site work determined in order to make it work.
I don't believe all the proceeding. I think it was just the potential change of the self-storage. I hear what you're saying. But again, I mean, we can't control the pace at which people operate. I mean, and again, we've been trying to come before this commission. We tried to come before this commission for a while, and I think this commission, I don't believe it should take 60 days for the commission to open a public hearing. Yes, statutes provide it, but it's not consistent with a lot of your peer communities. And it isn't consistent with how the commission has operated in the past either.
That's, we come here when when there's a meeting. That's probably more in the staff's hands. But I'm just trying to point out that I think we're all feeling a little bit of pressure because it sounds like in one regard, this could jeopardize two projects. Right? I think that it was described that way, one way or another. And I still, that doesn't, concern me as far as following the regulations and the rules and, proper order of what we're here to do. Just my thoughts, final thoughts, approach.
So we do have other things on the agenda that we need to get to.
Right.
So we've been at this almost for an hour.
Okay. No, like, listen, we understand, we appreciate the feedback and the consideration. We'll, discuss with our client and we'll go from there.
Sounds good.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
On lease production request, IWC 2011 file number 1416 Main Street. Building, we're not-
This is on as a discussion. The applicant is here. It's on because it's not normally, it's a recommendation by staff that the bond is ready for release and we're not quite necessarily there yet. So we've submitted staff has submitted some information. So you have a packet tonight for 786 Main Street. The first is the initial request for release of the bond by the applicant. It's a bond in the amount of $10,000. The second item here is the notice certificate of decision that was made in the original approval in 2022. And the third is a copy of the meeting minutes from the August 24th, 2022 meeting where this was approved. The issue that staff is running into is we went on site in order to review the status of the application. They also are requesting a CO. So we went for both planning and zoning is also for wetlands. So please note that we're here for bond release, but part of this determination is also if we're going to sign off on the certificate of occupancy, which we have not done yet. There was just some confusion in the way that the resolution was written. Again, previous staff, this is like 2 staffs ago, where it talks about it was a construction for an 8,400 square foot warehouse building and related improvements and installation of a new rain garden based on the following determination. In that determination, it talks about revising the plans by eliminating a second rain garden. I went back, I looked at the meeting minutes. Basically what happened is this building was being proposed on previous impervious surface, so on asphalt and millings in the area. And it sounds like during the meeting that all storm water was removed as part of the conditions of the approval for this project. So we went out on site. There was no stormwater improvements. There was some confusion with the way that was written. I believe that's resolved, that they were not required to do stormwater improvements. The reasoning for that is this was basically a second part of a 2-part project. They came in front of the Wetland Commission previous to that. They had parking that was associated as part of that, and they did have stormwater management practices included as part of that, where that was taking up the entire parking lot. So because those stormwater management was treating the entire impervious surface in the parking lot, this commission did not require them to do any more additional stormwater management practices, even though they submitted 2 different versions, a Caltech version and a rain garden version to this commission. Based on me listening to the meeting minutes, I believe that this commission did remove that from the conditions, even though there's some conflicting information in the resolution. The second part of this is the meeting minutes talked about a planting plan. And so if we want to jump to page 1, 2, 3, the red part of the meeting minutes, in that it talked about Commissioner Stewart asked if a landscaping plan will be submitted. They confirmed that it was. Commissioner Romano suggested making the planting plan a condition of the approval. However, if you look at the conditions of approval, it was never included as part of the actual conditions in the notice of decision. Therefore, the applicant did not come back in front of this commission for a planting plan, which is what was requested in the meeting. There was a whole discussion about, Chairman Romano had talked about maybe making a bond, $30,000 to make it really large, to make sure that they came back in front of this commission to present a planting plan. It was decided that that wasn't necessary. They've been in town for many, many years. And therefore you wanted to assist them in being able to go to planning and zoning because they had to go there for a special exception permit. They went to planning and zoning, they got the approvals. Staff at that time did sign off on a CO for the building, and it looks like they never came in front of this commission for a planting plan. They did, however, post the bond. So you do have a $10,000 bond, but for erosion control, for a little bit of silt fence. It's actually not it's not being held for a planting plan because it
Condition.
wasn't in the conditions of the approval, and not for stormwater practices because based on what I have heard from the meeting minutes that I went back and listened to myself, that was not required in order to be approved for the project. So I just wanted to make sure the commission was clear for this. I take no objection to you releasing the bond. I've been on site. I looked at the previous stormwater management practice and the planting that was done as part of the past project. That's still in good standing. There's no disturbance that was initiated as part of that. They've kept within their limit of disturbance. They haven't expanded the impervious surface. They did submit an as-built showing those limits to that. I believe they actually reduced the impervious surface in another area based on comments by the commission. But I did want to make sure before this bond was released that this commission had a full picture of the status of where we were at. And in case there was any memory by this commission about a planting plan that did not make it into the notice of decision, and therefore they did not come back in front of this commission to present a planting plan.
Did they plant any?
Not as part of this part of the project. And they are here tonight if you have any questions.
Is there any, I mean, what's your opinion? Do they need, should they install plants, or is it stupid?
So so you get to the end of the parking lot.
Yeah.
There's a row of boulders, and then it's just natural vegetation that's there. So I'm not quite sure if the point of the planting plan is help to enhance the buffer into the wetland area. I'm not exactly quite sure where you would enhance it. There's already a really stabilized meadow in that location. I mean, maybe you could ask for some more trees, from a fundamental perspective, but it's not like there's a clear area that it's like, wow, I really wish this was planted out a little more. I think it would be an enhancement.
Are you recommending we release the bond?
I take no objection to you releasing.
Okay, I like that. I like that. I don't have any issue, but I would say that in the minutes, it shows that the applicant confirmed that they were going to provide it. I don't think it needs to be a condition because they said they would do it.
And that's my
And-
fundamental issue.
So, I mean, they said they would do it. So you guys want a planning plan, I think you guys could make and do it.
Is it appropriate to ask if they have anything to say about this?
I don't have an issue with you that's why they're here tonight, in order to be able to have a conversation. Answer questions.
So anybody else have any thoughts on this? Anybody else have any thoughts on that?
Just asking if there's some
No, I
kind
mean, I
of middle
don't-
ground that they might, or some suggestion of how to resolve this. If they have some input, I'm open to hear it.
Hey, everybody else good?
Yeah.
Right,
Just
come on
to
down.
clarify, Kathleen, just one last thing. I'm sorry, Keith. You suggested that there is not, when you're looking at the space.
I'm Greg Ganant, the contractor. This is Matt Brand, the owner of Edgerton.
Can you hold on one moment? I would just like the commissioner to finish.
When you're looking at the space, there's not necessarily something that looks like it's missing. You said that it doesn't, like there is a.
At the end of the parking lot, it just basically, if they were required to do a rain garden, it would have been done basically between the parking lot and the wetlands. And then you would have been disturbing area. There would have been much more opportunity to do planting, and that you would want to make sure that the rain garden was properly planted and things of that nature, because that never actually ended up being a part of the stormwater management. They basically aren't disturbing past the parking lot. This project did not increase the parking lot. It was a condition of it that they couldn't increase the impervious surface. It was over previously paved areas. So no, it's not like there was a slope that was created and that would give you the opportunity to plant it for something more than a meadow or things of that nature.
When did these rocks or these boulders get placed?
As part of the previous improvements. So they did have to do a rain garden, a pretty extensive rain garden. It's kind of it's not just like a basin, it's actually like more of a swirly path that's coming through so that it actually, I believe, probably has more time to infiltrate into it. It's sloped from one side to the other because we did pull the plants from the original. So they have a really actually extensive rain garden on site. That's part of it.
What do you think?
So, Greg Gannett, I'm the contractor, Matt Brand, owner of Edgerton. Our discussion, my recollection of our discussions in the meeting was we discussed rain gardens, we discussed call tax, we discussed planting plans. But once we realized that we were only going into an existing parking lot and not disturbing any of the other wetlands, that we weren't to be required for the rain garden or a planting plan. That was our understanding. Matt has recently done a bunch of landscaping, which here's a receipt I can show you guys of plants that he planted and areas that he planted more grass and actually shrunk the impervious. And like Kathleen has stated, the plantings around the planting plan that was done 5-6 years ago is still intact. So that's the reason why we're where we are with no further improvements to plantings other than what Matt did as a cosmetic thing. Yeah, you know, send this to this.
You could take it around, but you don't have any pictures.
No, I don't have pictures, no. But here's the receipt from his landscaper.
Right there on the desk.
You were recently out there, right?
Within the last month, yes.
They were actually doing this work when Kathleen and Thomas were on site.
Um,
Another copy.
Yeah. He picks up.
I do remember something to the effect that drainage wasn't needed and there was gonna be limited disturbance, so restoration is already disturbed area. I think you actually had a garden on the plan, and I think I said wasn't necessary, right?
Correct. The meeting took a turn once we did the mathematics of, we did the calculation of the 96% impervious from the paving to the 100% of the building. We're under 450 square feet. Therefore, we kind of took the meeting to a left turn to, you know, we didn't need these things. And that's why we had the removal of that from the plan. And there was nothing specified for, that's when we took the turn for nothing specified from the planting plan. There was an article in the Monroe Sun that, where Bill Bitar, who's very specific, even referenced in the article that no planting plan required because we're building an existing parking. Yeah, no planting plan is proposed because the building would be on an existing parking lot. That was one of the statements that Bill Bitar put in the Monroe Sun.
Monroe Sun, I'm good with it. Motion that we authorize,
I'm just pointing out, we're not here to.
You need the motion.
To work with you.
what?
It's okay now.
You feel like it's okay? I feel like it's okay.
Okay.
How much is the bond?
10,000.
Motion to release the $10,000 bond.
A motion of Commissioner Stewart to release $10,000 bond. Second,
I'll second.
second by Commissioner Kelly to release the $10,000 bond. And also for that, it's IWC 2021-11, file number 1416786 Main Street. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously.
Make sure you put that in the minutes there. Good.
Thank you for everything. And thank you, Kathleen and Thomas. For all your help.
I can give back to you.
I don't care.
Thank you.
IWC 2019-06, Phase 2, 17 Enterprise Drive.
We're on to the next one, yes?
Yeah.
17 Enterprise Drive. They are requesting the release of a $16,000 bond for the improvements associated with Phase 2. So there was an industrial building in front of the building. They finished Phase 2 in the rear of the building. They had a couple, we went out a month and a half ago. I had a couple minor comments. They were really quick to respond to what I had requested. The planting's installed. It's in good health. The site actually looks really nice for an industrial facility. And so staff is recommending that that bond gets released.
That's Monroe Sun.
Motion to release the $16,000 bond.
That motion releases $16,000 bond from Commissioner Stewart,
Second.
second by Commissioner Smith. All in favor? Aye.
In light of the length of this meeting, would you like to give Thomas some guidance on to the extent of which you want him to go through the activity that he has been doing as it relates to agent improvements, enforcement and violations?
I missed that.
How much do you want him to go? So we have a list of items we've been doing administratively that Thomas has been doing administratively. What's to the extent of review that you would like for him to go into? Just, yeah, high level,
Highlights.
Real high.
real high levels, not just high level. real-
Super high.
There you go.
1,000 feet.
Good thing I got all the plans for all of them.
Okay.
Would you like him to just start going through the list?
I'm a little confused, but yes.
We're on to inland wetland, agent activities.
I got it.
All right,
Good to go.
yeah.
So for agent approvals, IAA 2024-04 was for 411 Moose Hill Road. This was for a two-story addition with the first story being a garage, the second story being an accessory dwelling unit. This was agent approved because it was in a 100-foot upland review area, and we deemed it wasn't necessary for it to go in front of the commission, so we approved the addition. IA 2024-05 is for 3 Lowe's Circle. This is for a front porch addition. There's wetlands in the rear of the property, and with it being a front porch addition, it's within the 100-foot upland review area, but, you know, there's a distinct barrier being the dwelling unit in between the work being done and the wetlands. So that's why we deemed it unnecessary for it to go in front of the commission. IA 2024-06 is for 39 Hillside Lane. This is to replace a driveway from asphalt to asphalt and remove 5 trees on the side of the house adjacent to a stream. This actually is being held up because the applicant did not submit the public notice to the local newspaper within the 10-day period that we granted the agent approval. So he's going to have to reapply, and we're going to have to do this all over again for him. So we're going to revisit this when he actually goes through with the submission of the legal notice. And then as far as enforcement is concerned, there's a violation from 2015, I believe. V 1215, also ICP 2015-03. This is for 3 Lowe's Circle as well. We drafted a notice of resolution and issued it to the approval of the submitted application IWR 2019. This is in reference to, let me see. The original violation regarded an altering of a water course into a man-made below-ground pipe, and it's been addressed with the approval of the submitted application IWR 2019-012. And so we deemed that no further violations were outstanding. So we drafted a notice of resolution for them. And then during site visits on April 3rd, I went to 596 Fan Hill Road and observed that 596 Fan Hill Road is obviously a residence. It's in RF3 zone, and the residence has a pond smack dab in the middle of the residence, and it looked like the owners of the property placed millings-like material around the perimeter of the pond because they want to create some type of walkway or space for them and their children to walk around the pond. And so I sent out an initial violation notice to let them know that this wasn't an approved activity. The homeowner actually came in because I did have a conversation with them on the phone about this as well. And they're looking to remediate the violation by removing the millings. And, they have 10 days to formally respond to the letter that I sent out. Haven't received a response yet, but it was a good faith act that the resident did come in to try to get some type of resolution to this. And we did discuss them having to remove the millings because it's not a permitted activity. Nothing follows.
Questions or comments?
Thank you for your diligence.
Yeah. Good. Thank you for staying up high. No? So no permitted use of the brakes, canceled the upcoming hearings. Correspondence, anything?
I don't think so. I think, I don't know if this is appropriate here, but I think we're all in agreement that there's really nothing on the agenda for the next meeting, which would be in 2 weeks. So if we just want to,
Cancel it. Yeah.
the only thing would be 77 Osborne.
77 Osborne.
Well, it was mentioned to them. Chair and Romano mentioned him, it might be in 2 weeks or it might be in a month.
Because I'll ask.
Yeah, I think we can probably push that up to the next one.
Okay.
The only other thing was, do we want to give those guys from,
205,
yeah,
Monroe Turnpike.
another opportunity? Or, I mean,
Like a response from them.
well, I think they got plenty of response from us, but I think the question is, do we want to give them another chance to do another one of these informal presentations, or do we want to? I mean, I don't feel like sitting here for another hour just to say, I don't know if I like it or not, because I think we're all still on
I
that same.
feel like the ball is kind of in their court at this point.
Yeah.
Like they have to decide, like if that wall can be taken down and adjusted, it seems to me like that's probably the fastest route to resolution for them, right? And I don't know definitively, but if they want to keep trying, like you said, Jim, maybe there's a benefit to an enhanced plan in the big picture, but that's a big maybe. Like I said, I think we all.
I think that they probably don't want to build that big wall 15 feet high as it's designed. Because they have no need, they don't need all that space.
Right.
Oh, they do.
Those walls are expensive.
I thought they said the wall had to be higher to meet the grading to get the parking lot done for Aldi.
No, they did enough, they did what they needed to get the whole Aldi thing done. But they want to continue with it in the wrong location.
No, I think there's also, if I'm wrong, I may have a bad memory on this, but didn't they also say they increased the height in that
I do think.
backdoor meeting?
I think because they came out and now they don't have the horizontal distance in order to get grade back to the wetlands. I think just by nature of moving the wall out on a hill from here to here is making the face and the retained distance of the wall higher.
So
So the fundamental question that we're talking about, because we're not talking about the application because
Do we want
we're outside of scope, the question is
Weeks for
do
the-
we want a meeting in 2 weeks?
I say no to that.
I don't-
I think that they came in here to get a pulse on what we thought.
and we give
I
them,
feel like we
Good
gave
one.
them that tonight. I feel like, now it's their decision, but we
Right.
don't.
And I think if they want to come back in and it's up to us to be fast.
right,
I mean, I'd hate to have them do another application, have a public hearing and go through all that. When you guys could just say no at an informal thing.
but we can't say no until it's time for us to say no, that's the thing.
Well, yeah, exactly.
And I just want to throw this out there too, so the commission is also thinking about this. No matter what, they're gonna need to come in with a application for the new use for that back building anyway. So just keep that in mind. Regardless, they are coming in with an application, even if they move the wall now.
Yeah, so what could
That's all.
tonight have been all about them just trying to figure out if they just keep on going?
Yeah, I think that's what.
Like,
It's more of them trying to figure out, if they're gonna resubmit an application, we're gonna make them resubmit a fee. We're gonna make them go back to a public hearing. We're gonna make them do all of that. I think it's just a little bit of guidance of what does that application look like specifically from the wall perspective. So again, once you get to a public hearing, it's not, as long as physically possible, if it can help shape the way that they come back. They were hoping for that. And in full disclosure, they were supposed to be on the meeting 2 weeks ago. It was, we thought we were going to have a meeting. They were just going to kind of squeeze it in. Now it's been, another month and things like that. So it made a little more sense when the idea was they were going to come to the second meeting of the month in order to resubmit in 2 weeks to be on for tonight for a determination of a public hearing so they could start that process. So their timeline is like a little off of than what was originally discussed during our meeting. But yeah, it's to give them a little bit of guidance to what this application looks like when they submit.
is there a scenario where they could have an application on the table by 2 weeks from now for us to review for maybe determination?
I can't speak on their behalf of what they have,
We kind of said no new meeting, no new
but
agenda.
no new stuff. Yeah.
But in candor, like that would just be a hearing determination. It could be a 30-minute grand scheme of things. And we did push the last meeting in between. So but I don't feel inclined to be in here for another informal discussion with them.
No, I'm with you, I don't think so. I think
Not just with
gotta
them,
be a
no.
formal hearing.
Okay. So it sounds like we're canceling the second meeting.
Yes.
We'll let 77 Osborne know then that they'll be on for a regular hearing for the first meeting in May. And we'll also let Solely Engineering know that we will not be having a second meeting. And if they want to resubmit an application for a determination, they would be resubmitting it for the first meeting.
It's just one other real quick is the Matthews Pond pesticide application that came to us in January. You said you'd keep us apprised of when we should make you know what I'm talking about? Matthews Pond, it's near Mesa High School.
I do not. I would have to do, let me look at, Cheryl's notes.
No, you had said, yeah, okay, Rick, I'll let you know when our opinion is due for this, but it's an application to the state for use of pesticides in state water specifically.
It's ringing a bell, but unfortunately I don't have like the history of it, so I apologize that if it did fall off our agenda, so thank you for reminding me and I'll take it.
Do you need this or do you need?
No, I'll just, this.
Thank you.
Other general discussion.
Are we still trying? Sorry, it needs to be done. Are we still talking about doing the invasive species field? Is that still a thing or is that?
We've been,
You're a person, I can't do anything about it anymore. So.
All right, so we'll have to see if we can pick that up.
Push it off until-
Yeah.
We can contact Barb Thomas again. She's, part of the other water conservation.
Biggest
Commission.
problem is securing somebody.
Yeah, but she has ties is what I'm saying.
All right, so we still have minutes. Have you had a chance to?
I did review the minutes, and I have no modifications.
I do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Name?
Be nice if I got my name spelled right.
I said something, I swear to you, I did say something. Why don't I?
Other than that, I
We will
make a
change.
motion to accept the minutes for the.
Make a motion
February 20th.
for a name change.
My name, all right, so that's.
Any motion?
Wait. Yeah, so who made the official motion?
I made the motion to accept it with the slight change
Second.
of the minutes.
Second.
Okay.
Those in favor?
Yeah, all those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? All right. Unanimous. Is that it?
Oh, it was me.
I need a.
Oh, okay.
So adjourn. Motion to adjourn?
You don't need, so technically you don't need a motion to adjourn.
Don't?
No, the chairman can just adjourn
No. We're adjourned.
at
Uh,
9:37.
Yeah, there you go.
I like that.
There you go.